What is going on, YouTube? Coming back today with my next NBA scouting report. So, done Jaylen Brown, Ivan Rabb so far, and this is part of my scouting report week, which I will be doing one NBA draft scouting report and one NFL draft scouting report every single day this week. So today I will be doing Buddy Hield, and the first shooting guard I've done so far. So again, I'm not going to do this every video, but just kind of recap the format that I'm going to be doing. I'm going to go through really their background information, stats, all that stuff from this past year, and then strengths, weaknesses, and then NBA projection of what I think their ceiling is, or where I think they project in the NBA as a whole, just as individual players. So just a little bit of the background information about Buddy Hield. He's a 6'4", 215-pound senior with a 6 foot 8.5 wingspan from Freeport, Bahamas. He did go to high school in Kansas. Wasn't hugely recruited coming out of high school, I don't think, and was a 4-year player at OU. He is a senior now, I believe 22 years old. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. But yeah, this year he was, I don't know if he's been named it yet, but still probably the favorite for the Naismith Player of the Year. I don't think it's been announced yet. I know that Denzel Valentine won the AP Player of the Year award, and it really should have been Buddy Hield. But either way, did average about 25 points per game, 6 rebounds, and 2 assists. So put up fantastic stats this year. So yeah, move into his strengths. So, he's from OU, by the way. I'm assuming pretty much all y'all know that. But anyway, moving to his strengths. The first one is offensive creating ability. So if you guys have watched any of his tape this year, I got to see him play twice this year. One against OSU, actually both against OSU, just one in Norman, one in Stillwater. And I mean, I just watched a lot of OU this year. He's a great shooter. It seemed like he was damn near impossible to guard this year. For the first, I believe it was 2 months of the year, OU was the best three-point shooting team in the country, and you could chalk up a lot of that to Buddy Hield. I think he's the best flat-out scorer in college basketball. When you're breaking him down on film, you can see the crispness in his movement and his fundamentals on offense. Not the best slasher to the rim in the world, but I'd say that's his one weak spot. He's very, very good at getting open, finding his shot, and then obviously shooting is one of his biggest strengths. He's also a pretty good facilitator. He does draw a lot of attention on D, which helps out his teammates, and especially when you had as many weapons as OU did this past year. You're talking about guys like Isaiah Cousins, Jordan Woodard, Ryan Spangler. Then, it was easy for those guys to find some open shots. Now that leads into my second one, which is shooting. So probably his biggest strength. He again was probably the best flat-out scorer in college basketball this past year. Now he shot, I believe, 46% from three, a tremendous percentage, obviously, almost 50% from the field at around 49.5%. So you're looking at a guy that people are comparing to Kobe Bryant in the NBA. He doesn't have really elite size for a shooting guard, but 6'4" is definitely probably I'd say maybe a little bit above the average size for a shooting guard. It's definitely not bad size, it's good size. He's got a decent wingspan, and he's probably got the weight you want. He is a good free throw shooter. I believe he shot around 85% from the line, actually 89%. So he's pretty much automatic from the line. He doesn't get to the free throw line an extraordinary amount. Probably about, actually did get to the line quite a bit this year. What was it? 16, no, that's actually only about 6 times a game. So didn't get to the free throw line extraordinary amount. That just comes from the fact that he didn't slash to the rim that much, doesn't draw a whole lot of contact. So his third strength is just his work ethic and leadership. So this is a big one. There's one good video that I'm going to put in the link below, or in the description below, and that is just the evolution of Buddy Hield. If you watch him over his past 3 or 4 years in college basketball, let's look at the stat progression here. 8 points per game his freshman year, 16.8 his sophomore year, obviously a big improvement there. 17.5 his junior year, in which he was a first-team All-Big 12 performer, and then 25 this past year, in which he will most likely be first-team All-American and win the Naismith Award. He's got high level of character. He's one of the hardest working players in college basketball. He's extremely competitive. He just wants to get it done for his team, and he's a great leader. And obviously, I believe he was a 3 or 4 star coming out of high school, and then average 8 points your freshman year, then by your senior year, getting 25 points per game. Just hard work. He was probably maybe one of Lon Kruger's best players ever in college. Kruger said he hasn't really ever seen a player work harder than Buddy Hield. You're talking about a guy that has like a 3-hour warm-up. It's just it's an incredible work ethic he's got. That should translate obviously extremely well to the NBA to help his development there. All right, so next one is he's good in transition. So the fact that he's such a good spot-up shooter, such a good shooter in general, helps us out a lot. Might not be the quickest. He is pretty fast, but he might not be the quickest player in the world. He's a decent dribbler too. Could definitely play at the point guard spot if required, but not quite the facilitator you want there. But he's got the dribbling ability to do that. He leads a great attack in transition. Like I said, he's quick. He's a good spot-up shooter. He's a good catcher and release shooter, and he seems like he gets open very easily, which is kind of weird because his off-ball awareness is not great sometimes, but that's mainly on the defensive side of the ball. All right, so fifth one is he's got the quickness to match up on defense. So one of the bigger knocks against him is his fundamental ability on defense, but he's got the lateral movement, he's got the quickness, he's got the size and the wingspan that you would want to match up with some of the better shooting guards in the NBA. So it's not like he's a one-ended player. Some people have given him the James Harden comparison, and I don't really see that. I mean, obviously he plays more defense than Harden. Like I said, the quickness is there, the foot movement's there. He's very, very good at moving laterally. He can stay with a lot of guys, or he could stay with a lot of guys in college basketball. That should translate okay to the NBA. Hopefully his defense develops a little bit more fundamentally so he can become maybe a little bit more of a complete defensive player. All right, so moving to his weaknesses. So really the first one is just defensive awareness. I was mentioning this earlier with off-ball awareness. It seems like he gets caught ball watching a little bit on defense, maybe just getting a little bit anxious to go in transition, get back on offense when he is on defense and he's not covering the guy with the ball. I think this can be improved. I think that's one of the bigger things he needs to work on heading into the NBA, and just with the right defensive coach, I think he'll help iron out his awareness and fundamentals a little bit defensively. It's not, like I said, it's not really a quickness problem. It's not really a size problem. So it seems like it's things that can be fixed. So his next one is just his age. I mean, you're looking at a guy that's a senior coming out of college, being drafted around a bunch of 19-year-old one-and-dones. Like I said, he's about 22 years old, so you lose about 3 years with him, which probably shouldn't be too big a deal. But I guess if you're looking for a little bit more of a guy with a higher ceiling, maybe a little bit more of a project, Buddy Hield's not really that guy. He's more of a polished player, that's for sure. I mean, spent 4 years in college, improved dramatically, which honestly could be more of a positive than a negative. But obviously, if you are looking for more of an upside guy, a face of the franchise that you want to develop and build around, Hield might not be the best for that situation. So the next one is he's a little bit slow on drives. He's not the best athletically, and he didn't draw a lot of contact this year. You can tell, like I said, only got to the free throw line about 5 times per game this year, and a lot of it just comes from the fact that he likes to be more of a spot-up shooter, catch and release. He's very, very good shooter, and I mean, again, you can see that he took about 16 shots a game, so he does shoot a lot. But again, most of those are catch and release, spot up, in transition, and doesn't really have to drive a whole lot when he can make those 10, 15, 20 footers. So next one is he's a little bit mediocre athletically. So I said this before, he is quick. He's not bad athletically, but he definitely doesn't have the leaping ability you might like. He's not the biggest guy in the world when it comes to size and wingspan, and it's true, he's not the quickest. Speed is there, which helps, but like I said, when you're comparing him to maybe a guy like Jaylen Brown, or it is a weak shooting guard class, so it's hard to compare him to other people that are athletic at the shooting guard position. But when you are comparing him to guys like Jaylen Brown, to guys like Ben Simmons, Brandon Ingram. They do have him a little bit on the side of like size and maybe a little bit more agility, leaping ability, that sort of thing. So my fifth one is he doesn't work very well down low. Now he's a shooting guard, so this doesn't hurt too bad. But I mentioned this a lot. He's not a great slasher to the rim. Doesn't get there very much. He's not the biggest guy either, so he can get bullied in the paint a little bit. Actually 6 rebounds per game. That mainly comes from his hustle, which kind of makes up for that a little bit. But he's not a guy that's really going to work in the paint too much or get down low and be able to cross you up or something like that. Like I said, spot-up shooter is really where he lives. All right, so his last spot I believe his last spot in my last mock draft was going at, I think it was around 7 or 8. NBA Draft.net, his last spot was number 3 to the Suns. Now, I had a lot of people chew me out last time because I had the Suns taking a shooting guard. I believe I might have had them taking Buddy Hield, but yeah, I think some of the best fits for him. I've mentioned the Timberwolves before. I think that's a good fit for them. I think they need a little bit of help at the shooting guard spot. I think they're pretty much set at, obviously they're set at center with Karl Anthony Towns. Zach LaVine is a very good shooting guard, but I think they could use a little bit of help at the 6-man spot. I think the Timberwolves would be a great fit for him. I've mentioned the Pelicans. I think that'd be a great fit for him, and Toronto and Sacramento. I believe I had him at 7 or 8 going to Sacramento. Toronto if DeMar DeRozan leaves. Those are some of the teams in the lottery that I think would be good fits for him. Let me see if I can pull up where I had him going in my last mock draft. But this is a guy that will most likely be a top 5 pick. He's been talked about as being the number 3 overall pick. He has very few weaknesses. Most of the weaknesses I mentioned, I don't think I said this, are very small weaknesses. They're not very major things. I'd say really the biggest thing is just his defensive awareness. I think that's the only thing that needs any sort of, major improvement. But like I said, I think this is a guy that you can see averaging about 20 points per game. He's been compared to Kobe on the offensive side of the floor. I think Harden's a good comparison. He's going to be a great spot-up shooter and a great three-point shooter in the NBA. He's going to start day one. Like I said, he's an extremely polished player. He can fit in well, really, with any team that needs a shooting guard. I think some of the teams that are weaker defensively and need maybe a little bit more toughness on the defensive end of the floor, that might be the one scenario that he wouldn't fit in extremely well. But it's hard to see him not fitting in really anywhere. Like I said, the work ethic's there, the leadership's there. Spent 4 years in college, so it's not like you need to develop him really anymore at all. Here, let me see. You got it pulled up right here. And last mock draft, I had him going at number 7 to Sacramento, which I did mention is one of my fits. So that pretty much does it for my Buddy Hield scouting report. Not exactly sure who I'm going to be coming back tomorrow with. Like I said, I'm going to start with some of the guys I know a little bit better and then work on from there. I'm thinking maybe Brandon Ingram tomorrow. That might be a good way to go. But yeah, that's pretty much it. If you have not seen the last 2 videos in this series, which were Jaylen Brown and Ivan Rabb, then go check those out. They will be in the outro, as well as I'll put the link to the entire NBA Draft Scouting Report playlist in the description below. So that's pretty much it. So just kind of recap the format of what I'm doing for this set of videos. I'm starting with the strengths, then working to the weaknesses, and then talking about really where I see his future going and NBA fit and NBA potential. So actually covering the background information and stats before any of that. So